Good morning. I'm Jonathan Fu from the Singapore University of Social Sciences. And this morning, I'm really here to share a little bit about our study, which is entitled The Effectiveness of Using VR 360 Live Streaming of a Video Production Lecture. Now, this study was conducted together with my colleagues, Dr. Jun Tay, the head of program of the digital media program here at SUSS, and Chu King Hao, which is our VR RA, and myself. And I'm the course lead of the course in discussion. So, what is this course in discussion? What we're talking about is MTD 301. It's actually the introduction to video and audio production. It is a 10 credit unit course over a 13-week period, and I'm the course lead, and I've been teaching this course since 2006. So that's coming to about 15 years now. And it's a traditional class to class, face to face instruction with hands on experience and lab based assessments. So we're comfortably doing it for 15 years, really. And then in 2014, um, the School of Science and Technology at SUSS, we were tasked to convert a large portion of our courses into blended online delivery. And this was our first foray into the world of online learning delivery. So we designed many courses for this online initiative, and it was started on the Blackboard system. And of course, over the years, then eventually there was a lot of apprehension and hesitation initially, but we pushed ahead, and eventually we crossed over to using the Zoom system. So that was in 2014 to the 20 kind of the 16, 17 period. And then comes in the middle of Jan 2020 semester, something happens, and we all know that's COVID-19. And really, with COVID-19, our education landscape really evolved from something that was predominantly traditional face-to-face learning to a new environment, which was either fully online learning environment or blended learning, which was complemented with electronic media resources. So on the in March in Singapore, in March we had the circuit breaker, and everything went 100% online. Suddenly we had to convert all the term assessments as well as the end of course assessments into individual and online submissions. So there was a little bit of challenge at that point, and this has now carried over into the July 2020 semester as well, and it's now creating what we call the new norm. So what has this done? Well, this has actually posed new challenges for us. And we found limitations of the Zoom system, particularly with lab-based content. You could not uh, be as effective, having that face-to-face connection with the students. Once you had the Zoom, you weren't even sure whether they were really paying attention. There was a lot of dependence, or what I call the safety blanket of PowerPoint in Zoom. A lot of instructors and educators were very comfortable with that PowerPoint environment. And so they were sticking very much to just clicking the PowerPoints, and that limited, I think, a lot of the communication with and teaching with our students. We lost the ability to demonstrate skills. There was no reference or understanding of the spatial context with the flat two-dimensional Zoom delivery, and very specifically to my MTD 301 course. Um, how are we going to teach something like three-point lighting that depended so much on the venue and the space, and the placement of objects on Zoom? So this really created the quest to find innovative ways to engage with students and to enhance their learning experiences. So the proposed solution was VR, virtual reality 360 live streaming. Now, the advent of the fourth industrial revolution has really brought forth a lot of technologies that can help enhance, enrich, and even revolutionize the way we live and work. In recent years, we've been certain industries like healthcare, engineering, entertainment, and education. We've explored the use of the XR spectrum of tools, which covers VR, AR, and MR. And with the internet speeds increasing, tremendously in the last decade, and we're seeing 5G networks starting to appear. Um, these will provide, I think, the required kind of network speeds that will be needed um, to deliver the type of content such as virtual reality into the homes of our students. So VR 360 is really an audio and visual simulation of an altered environment, and it surrounds the user. It can be captured using a 360-degree camera, and it can be viewed, of course, on different devices. But to be truly immersive, it has to be viewed in a head-mounted display, HMD. And there are certain affordances of VR, and they are immersion, embodiment, and presence. And these are all elements that help with the retention of information and learning. So just a quick touch on these three affordances. Immersion is where VR enables the audience to be completely surrounded by sound and vision in a realistic environment that makes them believe that they are inside an actual space to the point that they are responsive to it. So they are now believe that you are in your a real environment, but that's actually virtually created. Embodiment is the perception that a person is physically interacting with that virtual environment. Sometimes you see that in the form of an avatar, or you see your hands sticking out, like in this picture that I'm showing you now. Um, it can be Embodiment can be separated into kind of three subcomponents. You have the sense of self-location, sense of agency, and sense of body ownership. So it's kind of the most powerful element in VR, as it tricks our senses into thinking that we're actually in the virtual environment. So we start to believe we're there. It's also how we present the content. When the content starts to address the participant face on, um, and then you start to believe and communicate with your environment in this virtual space. The third affordance is presence, and this is really the feeling of actually existing within the environment. Now, this is the core of what VR is, and it's achieved when the user starts to forget about the technology. You start to begin to react to the virtual stimuli as if you would in the real world. You forget that you are no longer in the real world. You believe that what you're experiencing is your world. And this presence has really been defined to be the moment that skills are learned in the virtual world, and the moment that these skills are learned, that the level that you can actually transfer the skills back to the real world. So it's kind of the zone that we hope that students are able to achieve in the VR space. So we proceeded with our study. This is the schedule that came up. The project was conceived in January, and we did some design testing in February and March. We applied for IRB April. We received approval in May. We got participant consent in August, mid-August. We did 2 sessions of live streams with 2 different groups, and now we are just coming to the end of our data analysis. So a little bit about the study. It really explores the use of VR 360 live streaming as part of blended learning environment in a video production lecture. So the students' perception on the use of VR in learning was captured and studied. So from the students' perspective, we gathered feedback on the degree of acceptance to the introduction of VR live streaming, the perceived goal of VR 360 live streaming, perceived quality, and the opportunities to participate in the environment. The 3 key areas of data that we were collecting were basically the students' acceptance of VR, experience in the VR environment, and comfort of VR. So the design was to really place the students within a virtual 3-point lighting class that was part of the MTD 301 module. And due to COVID, really all the lessons were really shifted online. So it just made this even more important. So in my pre-visualization plan here, we really considered the position of the viewer, how they would be seated, and how the instructor would be walking around and addressing the viewers who are watching from home, the students who are watching from home. So the pre-visualization is very crucial to ensure that you maximize the entire 360 environment, without it being too gimmicky and too much of a novel experience, but enough so that you take advantage of the spatial context to be able to teach the students placement and the effectiveness of lighting. So in MTD 301, we offered basically the rest of the course on Zoom, and we found that um, we started off basically the program of sending off cardboard HMDs like these to all the students' homes, and we replaced the standard so-called Zoom lecture with the live streaming. We kept the chat function on so that students could continue to have live feedback with the instructor, and that was and the students would basically have to answer a 48 question survey based on a 5-point Likert scale. So when typically on Zoom, the classes traditionally would be simplified to use two-dimensional drawings and photographs within PowerPoint presentation. So this is how it would look. My colleague did present the class originally in this format. So you look at basically diagrams and a very kind of a flat two-dimensional presentation. But translating that into the VR 360 live streaming world, this is the studio setup that we had. Basically, a specialized multi-lens video camera will be used to capture the instructor giving instruction from within the whole three-dimensional set. If you notice, he's actually looking straight at the camera. So if you're a student wearing the headset, you would actually have a sense that the instructor is speaking directly to you. So it's a pretty clear one-on-one relationship that we are trying to build. So students who are attending will be virtually could be from anywhere. They'll be able to use the headsets that we've sent to their homes, so they can use it with their mobile phones, and they will be virtually transported into the space with the instructor. So we hope that that level of immersion will come through with the students using the cardboard device. Um, Interaction continues. The instructor has access to a large screen with the Zoom chat function, and they're able to respond to questions and queries that come in live. So this is what the students see. This is the point of view. They were able to experience a sense of depth, physical placement, and embodiment and presence. In addition, the stream can be watched live as well as recorded for later viewing as well. So we managed to recruit students who had signed up for the MTD 301 class. Unfortunately, the number wasn't as large as we want, but we will continue to run the test in the fall in this term as well. So we recruited 22 students. We conducted 2 live stream sessions, each about 20 minutes, and the students filled up the forms after that. So we have got some summary of some of the results in a nutshell. The demographics, we had about 95% were 20 to 29 years, which was quite consistent with our student demographic. It's a bit younger, although some of our classes, because of adult learning, we do have people up to the 60s and 70s as well. This group we had mostly in the 20s and only 5% in the 30s. Strangely, we had 82% female and only 20% male. So we hope to expand that demographic in further tests. Okay, the initial test of acceptance of VR, we found that we were very encouraged. We had 95% agree and strongly agree that VR improved the engagement and motivation, and motivates kind of their participation. So we found that there was already positive results there. Um, Overall, 86% found it easy to use. 96% enjoyed using it. So there were positive effects there. In terms of the experience in the environment, 50% had a sense of embodiment. So they became really able to associate with the environment. 60% found it consistent with the real world. So they were able to respond and, I would imagine, learn as if they were in the real world as well. 68% agreed or strongly agreed that they actually felt present, which is the point that we want them to get to. and 68% also felt that they were captivated by the content. The 73% found it neutral, uncomfortable, or very comfortable to wear. However, this is where the data goes downwards, where we find that 54% actually, after a 20-minute experience, had some level of fatigue, and 41% had some level of nausea. So this is actually where we realized that a lot of it's to do with the technology we're using and also the cardboard limitations. We are using really the lowest end of VR immersion. So that brought us to certain general conclusions, and really that the positive findings were that VR live streaming was found to improve engagement, motivation, and learning. It was easy and enjoyable to use. They found that they could find presence and sense of embodiment, and it was captivating. But the headset was somewhat comfortable. However, there was problems with fatigue and nausea. So really, the limitations are really the device that we're using. Cardboard and mobile phone experiences in VR is poor. We need to really figure out new ways and better technologies. And we are looking at the better devices such as the Oculus Quest 2 and the Pico G2 4Ks. The small number of participants we hope to increase with further studies. And we want to add in the element of comparing assessment results of the students who learned from VR and those who did not. So really, in conclusion, we are very encouraged by the initial results of the study, and we believe that VR live streaming could provide us with a novel yet effective way of bridging technical and special instructions during this COVID-19 period. We hope to expand our study and to introduce new methods of learning to our students in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So it is very interesting project. And any question from the floor?
Yes, I'm having question. Yeah, it is a very interesting study that you have kind of like, the students that are just learning from the PPT through Zoom, then they have the VR, using the VR. But what I would like to ask is that, when I teach, normally the students looking at the PPT and then they keep taking the notes or typing, okay? But if when they are wearing the VR headset, then they cannot do that. So what should the students do?
Yeah, I think what is actually crucial is how long they are in the system. We've had different experiences with different groups of people, and we find that I think first of all, the optimum time is no more than 10 minutes comfort level. I think if you go more than that, people start to feel uncomfortable. So I think this is where the instructor has to ensure that we are able to capture certain materials within that 10-minute period of attention, and then we pause, come back out, continue the guided explanations, and that's where the students can then follow up with notes and other materials. I think we also found that there was a good use of providing materials to the students that they could refer to after. So already we pre-prepare certain materials, so they watch it for 10 minutes, then they come back, they look at related materials, and then they can note their own personal feelings to it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Because in my experience that the students, after they watch for 20 minutes, they actually feel so tired, and the VR headset is so heavy.
Yes.
So they have to keep holding that, and it's so uncomfortable actually. Yeah, interesting. Thank you so
Yes.
much for the answer.
Thanks,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I agree. I think fatigue is one of the issues that we hope that technology can improve. We were using the mobile phone and cardboard as the deployment because it was really the cheapest way to do it, especially if you've got to send it to every home. But we realized it's not the best experience. When we did use in the laboratory other all-in-one devices like the Oculus and the Picos, students were able to go in there for even half an hour and an hour and not feel the fatigue. So I think it's down to the device eventually. The hardware is going to make a big impact, I think, in how we can deploy it for longer form teaching.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Okay. Thanks so much for your sharing. Thank you,
Sure.
Hannah.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Ervi. So let's pass our time to